perform a MPN technique, the most probable number approach for detecting coliforms in a water sample. So these are typically done with a selective and differential medium called lauryl tryptose broth. And so you can read about, first of all, what a coliform is in your lab manual, and then second of all, what lauryl tryptose broth is and what it contains and how it works. So in this MPN approach, this most probable number approach, we're going to use the multiple tubes testing method. And so the first thing that you do is you will collect a water sample in one of these little Whirlpac bags. The bag is filled, and then there's just a twist tie at the top that allows you to seal the top. So you would collect some water from your faucet, for example, or jacuzzi or a pool that you have access to, and you'd bring it in, and we would do this test on it. The water, you can add a little bit of sodium thiosulfate as well if you have a water source that you think might be contaminated with chlorine, heavy amounts of chlorine. In that particular case, it could be tap water or jacuzzi or pool water that you may want to neutralize some of that chlorine. So that's the sodium thiosulfate. Now the arrangement is like this, and so you have tubes containing 10 milliliters of lauryl sulfate, 1 milliliter of lauryl sulfate, and then a series with 0.1 milliliters of thiosulfate. And you can have these in duplicate as well. The more replications you do, the more robust your results will be. But in our case, we would have just done one series of 5 10 mil tubes. So if you look in the lab manual, you'll see tables that correspond with how to interpret a single series 10 mil, single series of 10 mil tubes. And so the first step is just shake up your water sample. Remember, there's a little twist tie on top, so it's sealed, even though it's a little plastic bag. And then the next step would be to fill your first series of tubes with 10 mLs of water sample. So you've basically got 10 mLs of lauryl sulfate tryptose broth, and you're adding 10 mLs of sample. Now I should point out that the lauryl sulfate tryptose broth is a 2x concentrate. So by the time you add 10 mLs of water sample to that, you've effectively halved the concentration of lauryl sulfate. So that's now a 1x, or working concentration. And so he's filling all the tubes with 10 mLs. The second row will get 1 ml of sample. And so he's using a 1 ml delivering micropipetter. And then the last set will get 0.1 mLs. And so in this particular case, you're taking a bit of sample and diluting it in a phosphate buffer to make a 1 to 10 dilution. And then you can just use 1 ml of a 1 to 10 dilution. You could even just put 0.1 of the of the sample, but delivering 1 ml is a little bit more accurate. I'll just kind of skip ahead here. You get the idea. And then ultimately, oops. And ultimately, you have your rack, you have your data recorded where everything is, chain of custody, because this is an official lab that's doing this, and then that rack of tubes will go into the 35 incubator. And typically we let it incubate for 24 hours. We'll read the results at 24, and then if we need more incubation, we'll let them go for another day.